Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Madam and all friends. Okay, our group will present the case study of ADS 653. The topic of our case study is surviving the impact of COVID-19, a trying year for job holders, which is about unemployment. Our group consists of 3 members, which is me as well, Nur Hasmal Hazwani binti Muhammad Kamal, Nur Zahirah binti Ghaffar, and Diana Shahira binti Abdul Rahman. Okay, so each of us will present our part as well. So feel free to listen. Thank you. For the summary of our case study, the COVID-19 pandemic has grown into a massive health, social and humanitarian disaster. The situation in Malaysia is made worse by the fact that the government only took in early March 2020 and is already dealing with a massive debt crisis, financial limitations and the global shutdowns, knock-on effects on commerce and tourism as well. Majority of Malaysians are finding it difficult to find work, with the level of difficulty intensified due to a variety of factors, including the global COVID-19 pandemic invention. Since the movement control order MCO, the number, which is the number of unemployment in Malaysia, which is lost their job, is raised to the 99.696 Malaysia until November 27. At the same time, the Associate China Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Malaysia's Socio-Economic Research Centre SERC expect the unemployment rate reached to 4.8% in 2020 and go down to the 4.5% in 2021. But Malaysia unemployment rate hit we can see in the May 2020, which is in 5.3%, this is the highest rate more than 3 years ago. Okay, this data was support from the Department of Statistics Malaysian as well. Which are these issues are going to be the worries issues among the Malaysians, especially for those working and need work to ensure their survival and family as well. Also, the hardest hit can see from the what we call the service industry, in particular those from the tourism, hospitality and aviation sectors, which is because the travel to international outside from Malaysia had to be hold as due to the pandemic COVID-19. As we know, our Malaysian-based airlines such as Air Asia Group Berhad, Malaysia Airline, and so on, they had to lay off thousands of the employees due to this pandemic. Besides that, we can also look at the hospitality sector, which they had to shut down, close all the hotels operation. So it make the number of unemployment will rising very high. Malaysia has a federal system, which means that the federal government is in charge of economic and social development strategies. But certain states are able to attract private investment, which is an important component of economic growth, partly due to legacy of colonialism, which has resulted in regional disparities in economic and social development among Malaysian states. Protecting the poor and vulnerable from the crisis, health and economic consequences is the immediate priority. However, policy must address the root cause of rising inequality, which are fundamental. While the government has enacted a number of redistributive policies aimed at low income and disadvantaged population, it can go even far by investing in retraining and reskilling program that can help people find a new jobs. Okay, for the conclusion of the case study, the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak has had a profound impact on a person's career. The most feared threat by the working class was the announcement of the Movement Control Order (MCO), which caused many individuals to lose their job, whether they had to stop working or be given long leave or be laid off. This is because most employers must take drastic action to lay off existing employees in order to reduce losses and save their operating costs. In fact, the reopening of the workplace after entering the MCO, they will cause of a lot of stress, anxiety among many workers, as the COVID-19 outbreak could be one of the inviting factors to trade of dangers to workers. Because the situation can leave many individuals at risk of infection, particularly to individuals with chronic health problems and the elderly. Good career management can prevent individuals from experiencing stress during this COVID-19 outbreak, which is to result in physical, mental, and emotional disruption. To replan careers for those who have resigned or been laid off need to be made to cover the financial and livelihood aspects that are getting worse during this epidemic. Early preparation also include the ability to educate the heart to always be patient and content with the trials phase. Okay, completely during this COVID-19 outbreak, individuals, we as employees, we also as students, as well as family institution need to optimize the use of time available during the MCO period as best as possible. Although in the face of various psychological pressures due to the loss of sources of income, employment and workforce are disrupted, but it is not a reason to continue to spend time with our family or let the day go by stress, because every human being is able to make choices and changes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Zahira binti Ghaffar. Matric number 2016282906, and I will present for my case study question 1. The question is why the issue of income equality is critical to address during this COVID-19 pandemic. First of all, the degree to which income to distribute inequality through a population is referred to as income inequality. The economy is collapsing, wreaking havoc on employment, earnings, and livelihoods, and disrupting supply lines and upsetting business and worsening inequality, poverty, and suffering, particularly among the poor. Several economic stimulus measures have been made accessible by the government in order to protect protect people welfare, help enterprises, and strengthen the economy. Here are the issue why here are the factors why the issue of income inequality is critical to address during COVID-19 pandemics. First of all, because of an unemployment issue. In May, Malaysia jobless rate has jumped to 5.3%. The highest is more than 3 decades. According to data from Malaysia Department of Statistics, the number of unemployment people increased by 300,000, 306,300 in year to 826,100, which the economy showing as a result of COVID-19. The government must do something special in addition to simply saving jobs. Effort to provide employment to the people during COVID-19, of course, impossible without commitment from government industry. And it is unusual to see our country economic system still rely on low wages and foreign labor, despite the fact that three of opportunity to improve the situations. The next issue why equality is critical to address during COVID-19 pandemic is because new remote way of working, which has unfairly benefited the higher paid workers is more likely to work from homes, but lower workers are less likely to have this choice. When the MCO began, 44% of workers polled by Malaysia Department of Statistics said that worker from home because said they work from home because most commercial operations were held. This working arrangement, however, was the only common among regular worker or employees. Workers who work for the public-private or private company and paid on regular basis, the most prevalent sort of employee in Malaysia. This could point to the pandemic inequality impacts, because as well paid workers were initial economic survivors of the containment measure because they were able to work from home, while lower paid workers were likely to be economic victims since they were forced to stop working. The third reason why inequality become issue is because essential and non-essential services are collapsing. Essential services such as nurturing, policing, and other employ a higher percentage of low-paid workers who are more likely to come into contact with infection person. This is because most of the non-essential services need to work face-to-face with their customer in doing their works. Apart from upsetting the supply and demand change, the ringgit decline caused severe exchange rate fluctuations in Malaysia. As global risk aversions grew, investor mood was inflected by the working and uncertain outlook for global growth. Last but not least is because of increasing of poverty. Low-income families in urban areas are significantly more likely to be unemployed, have to reduce working hours, and face more barriers to healthcare. To avoid COVID-19 aggravating pre-existing poverty, inequality, and social exclusions, a radical rethinking of Malaysia's social protection system is required. It is also provides preliminary insights into the relevance, adequate, and accessibility of essential COVID-19 mitigation strategies and other critical social service for these especially vulnerable populations. Despite the introduction of government support programs, many micro, small, and medium firms are expected to fail as a result of COVID-19 economic shock. Malaysia vulnerable and pandemic poor are in particularly precarious position as a result of the pandemic effect. To conclude my answer, to minimize the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, the government must establish comprehensive and equitable stimulus package to assist the vulnerable both during and after the pandemic. In the positive measurements put in place response to the pandemic stakes, or if they result in long-term improvements in public health, social protection, and counter-cyclical measures, funding and reform, especially for the most vulnerable groups, will ensure that the crisis is not wasted and that sustainable development and inequality do not worsen. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum. My name is Diana Shahira Abdul Rahman. So in this case study, on my part, I would like to explain to you guys about question number 2, which is the question is, what is the factor that will give investor the confidence to invest in Malaysia? Okay, firstly, I would like to share to you guys about what actually happened in our economy. On the early 2020, we are facing the pandemic COVID-19. So this is what the factor, one of the factor that make the investor going not to be invest in Malaysia. This is because of their confident. They doesn't have any confidence to invest in Malaysia. This will make our Malaysia economy being down, and also it will affect our community. It just not affect our government, it also affect our community because of the pandemic. They cannot do any investment, and also our community, they lost their job. For the people who make the business, they also cannot run for their business. So this is make our economy being down, and other investor from other country not confident to invest in our country, in Malaysia. Okay, so that due to the pandemic, and also for the crisis that happened in Malaysia, which is the crisis of economy happened in Malaysia, where is our community loses their job. So that's our government also take the initiative in how to make the other investor in other country being confident to invest in our Malaysia, in our country. Okay, other than that, I think this is the best thing that the government take, is which is they give the incentive and also the facilities for the investor, for them to investment in Malaysia. One of the initiative that taken by the government is by implement the Penjana Kerjaya, which is this program making the community who is losing their job, so they can apply the job from the Penjana, and also the Penjana will implement the community to get their job because of their losing of the job due to the pandemic of COVID-19. Actually, the Penjana has been launching in June 2020, so it's about 1 year already, and now we can see that it's going to be better. Our community, one of that is going to get the job, and also they can make money from the Penjana. So from the Penjana, I think what will happen to our investor, they will more confident to invest in Malaysia, because our unemployment cases going to be okay. Among our community, they get the job now, and then this will make our investor being confident to invest in Malaysia because of this Penjana. For this project of coordinations and accreditation unit at the MIDA, Malaysian Development Investment Authorities, their task is just going to be making the investment process is going to be smooth, which is they have to give the approval of implement in investment in Malaysia. For example, their task is going to give the license for investor, which is approval. The license is for about 2 day working, which is this is the golden time for investor to invest in Malaysia, because the process of the approval to get investment in Malaysia is going very very smooth, and it's make they to encourage invest in Malaysia. Next is what is the factor that will make investor being confident to invest in Malaysia is, whereas government also announced for the other package, which is the special tax exemptions package for the new investor when they invest in Malaysia. So this will give the advantage for the new investor when they wants to make the new investment in Malaysia, so they will give the advantage to them. For example, one of the incentive is the new firm will benefit from 10% of tax for the 10 years. So this will give the investor being confident to invest in Malaysia, and also they like to going to make investment in Malaysia because they will get the advantages from this incentive. So that's my point for how what is the factor of making the investor confidently to invest in Malaysia. Just because it's not just because of our country is the good country, but there are many incentive or initiative that taken by our government to make sure that our economy being good again, and also the investor confident to invest in Malaysia. Thank you.
Very thank you to Madam, and hopefully this pandemic outbreak will getting off soon, so that we can feel our life getting back normal as before. Thank you from all of us.